Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode of Cycling Insider. In this episode of Cycling Insider, let's talk about another interesting aero road bike, and this time it's going to be an aero road bike from Big T, from Big Trek. So it seems like aero road bikes are all the rage currently, and I get a lot of questions about featuring aero road bikes and explaining a bit about aero road bikes. So I've decided this time to talk about probably the most famous aero road bike and the one that kind of started it all, which is the Trek Madone lineup. And this time it's going to be the 2020 Trek Madone SL6 Disc. So the current asking price for this Trek Madone SL6 is 3,900 British pounds. This would be approximately 4,800 US dollars for all the people across the pond. So definitely, immediately you see this is not a cheap bike. It's an expensive bike. But you gotta keep in mind that all this development of the aero road bikes, of course, costs money, and this is kind of the beginning of the aero road bikes. So of course, lots of companies can invest a lot of money, and now the prices are pretty high. I wouldn't be surprised if a few years from now these aero road bikes would be much cheaper than they are now. So 3,900 British pounds asking price. But the good thing is that you have a lot of Trek dealers around the world, and I truly believe that you should go to your local Trek dealer and negotiate the price of this bike. Be nice and negotiate nicely. And I truly believe that something about 15% discount should be reasonable discount on this bike. So let's call it approximately 450 British pounds discount, maybe even 500. And then we are talking about 3,400, 3,500 British pound bike, which then becomes a little bit more attractive. So let's see, what do you get for your hard-earned money for approximately 3,900 British pounds? So first thing first, who is this bike for? So when you think about the aero road bike, specifically this Trek Madone, it's all about speed. So if you are the rider who just likes to go out on the road and always go full gas, achieving the maximum speed you can, but of course you don't want to be using a time trial bike which has a very demanding position to sit on it, then definitely these aero road bikes are for you. Always keep in mind that because of all these aero tricks that they have, they will always be much heavier than the climbing road bikes, and I wouldn't be even surprised if easily the weight difference can be up to 1 kilogram in weight difference between the pure climbing bikes and these aero road bikes. But this is what you get basically if you go aero. So when you look at the Trek Madone SL6, you got two paint schemes. One is this black with gloss vault. Definitely not my cup of tea, as they say. So I would switch to this pure classic red and black, just because it looks absolutely beautiful. I could almost say that it looks like a Ferrari F1 car. Black and red, always good choice. And jokingly, as they say, red is the fastest color. So let's look at the components you get for approximately 3,900 British pounds. So the one of the kind of key things with the Trek Madone is the Trek's ISO-speed decoupler. So it's a thing that Trek developed specifically for the Domani range in the beginning. Then they switched it to Madone, and what it does is that your seat tube can flex independently from the top tube and the seat stays. So it's a definitely neat little trick that allows you to have much smoother ride on this aero road bike. And all the tests that I've seen and all the testers that rode it, everybody says this is the most comfortable aero road bike on the market. So when you look at the frame and fork of this bike, you get the Trek's 500 series OCLV carbon. So this is not top of the range that Trek can do. They have their 700 series OCLV, but Trek does top-notch carbon fiber frames and forks. And also don't forget that you get a lifetime warranty with Trek, so even if you have some problems, they will easily sort it out. So when you look at this frame, everything is optimized for aero. So Trek is here kind of showing off with their Chemtail virtual foil design. You can always think about it if you look at the kind of a drop of water, and if you would cut the tail of that little drop, then you would get these Chemtail shapes where you are kind of cheating the air when it flows around the tubes. So carbon fiber frame and fork, of course ready for the 12mm through axles, both front and back, and also on the fork you have a full carbon steerer. And again, frame and fork ready for the flat mount disc brakes. And I see here even on the fork you have a carbon dropouts, very interesting addition. When it comes to the wheel set on the bike, you have the Trek's in-house brand Bontrager Aeolus. These are the comp disc wheels. They are tubeless ready, 12mm through axles, both front and back. And they have an internal width of 18mm, which is a bit narrow, but I hope you can fit some wider tires on it, because currently it comes with a 25C tire, again Bontrager R3 tires, which are good tires, no problem with that. But probably once when you destroy these 25C tires, I would probably switch to 28C tires, just because you're going to get more air volume and a bit more cushioned ride. One interesting thing with these Bontrager Aeolus wheel set, when you dig a little bit deeper about their technical data, you realize that it's a combination of aluminium rim with bonded carbon fiber fairings, so 50mm deep carbon fiber fairings. So it is an aero wheel set, a combination of aluminium and carbon fiber. So not purely carbon fiber wheel set, but an interesting combination of aluminium and carbon fiber. When it comes to the whole drivetrain, so shifters, front mech and rear mech, everything is Shimano Ultegra mechanical group set, so Shimano Ultegra R8000 or R8020. So it's 11-speed mechanical group set, and as you know, I'm a big fan of mechanical Shimano Ultegra group set. It's absolutely top-notch and it works flawlessly. So on the rear mech, one thing to keep in mind is that it can take up to 30-tooth cog for the cassette, and the cassette that comes with this setup is the Shimano's Ultegra cassette 1128. So combined with the crankset, which is also Shimano Ultegra 5034, you got this is a compact crankset, and you got a decent climbing range for this bike. Again, when it comes to the cassette, Shimano Ultegra on this bike, and the chain also Shimano Ultegra HG701 11-speed chain. So definitely Trek didn't cut corners with the cassette or the chain. Everything is top-notch Ultegra, like all the shifting performance. So crankset 5034 and the cassette 1128 should be decent to climb some steep hills, but you can always have this opportunity once when you destroy this cassette to drop in an 1130 Ultegra cassette, and then you are absolutely ready even for attacking some steep mountains with this bike. Some other small components on the bike, so the saddle, again a Bontrager in-house production, Bontrager Aeolus comp saddle. Can't say anything special about this saddle. Saddles are always a personal preference. If you don't like this saddle, it's always easy to replace it, and then once when you find your good saddle, I highly recommend just to keep it. A seat post is the Madone's Aero Carbon seat post, very nice, because again a bit of carbon seat post combined with a carbon fiber frame and fork just gives you that a bit more smoother ride. When it comes to the handlebar and the stem, so they are separated, which is good, so you can have these fine adjustments. And this is also one part of the bike where Trek has, of course, managed to save some money compared to the top range Madones, which have this one-piece carbon fiber stem and handlebar. So this is a separated piece, handlebar and stem, aluminium pieces, Bontrager handlebars and stem, nothing special to add here. Of course, you can notice, depending on the size of your bike, the width of the handlebar or the length of the stem will change. It's the same stuff with when you look at the crankset, the length of the crankset will, of course, be changed depending on the size of the bike, of the frame you choose. When it comes to the braking performance, here we have the Shimano's Ultegra hydraulic disc brakes, top-notch braking performance. Again, I'm a big fan of Shimano Ultegra hydraulic disc brakes, and again, Trek didn't cheap out here. They have put Shimano's RT800 rotors on the bike, top-notch braking rotors, 160mm front and back, center lock rotors, absolutely top-notch. And now, as you see, all these aero road bikes, as I mentioned, are a bit heavier than your classical climbing road bike. So this bike comes in, if it's a size 56, the weight is 8.62 kilograms. I mean, this is not a heavy bike, don't get me wrong. 8.62 kilograms is a decent bike weight for this aero road bike, but always keep in mind that for comparison, if you look at the pro bikes, climbing bikes of the professionals, they can go down to 6.8 kilograms. So all in all, when I look at this aero bike from Trek, it's a very interesting bike, beautiful components on the bike, no special complaints. Of course, the price is 3,900 British pounds, which is a high price, but as I say, if you can negotiate the price, and you definitely should be able with your local Trek dealer, get something about 15% discount, then it's a really interesting offering. So definitely the highlights of the bike, of course, OCLV 500 carbon fiber frame and fork with this Trek's ISO speed decoupler, where your seat tube independently can move from the top tube and the seat stays, and you can adjust it with a slider under your top tube. And then you also have the full Shimano Ultegra shifting performance, so the shifters, the front mech and the rear mech. Also they've included Shimano's Ultegra chain rings, cassette and the chain, so the full crankset, and the hydraulic disc brakes from Shimano Ultegra, so everything absolutely top notch, no cutting corners there. And also you get this Bontrager Aeolus wheel set, aero wheel set, 50mm deep, which is a combination of aluminum rim and the carbon fiber, these fairings, 50mm deep. So as I say, absolutely top-notch build of the bike, and many reviewers have said it many times before that this is the smoothest aero road bike just because of this Trek's ISO speed decoupler. If you are in the market for this level of bike, definitely go to your Trek bike dealer and test it and see if you can negotiate the price down. If you can get it for approximately £3,500, £3,400, it would be a very good price for this level of the bike. So I think this is going to be it for today. If you like what I'm doing, please do subscribe and hit that little bell icon so you are always notified when I upload a new video. And as always, I will see you in the next episode. Pura Vida!